Hello collective, welcome back to your weekly quantum teaching. This week we are going to be talking about the illusion of time. Now, you may have noticed last week there was not a video uploaded because my guides have come in with some updates on the way that content is going to be created across all of my platforms: Door to Value, School of the Ascending, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. And so you guys might start to see, if you're connected with me on any of these platforms, some changes with the way that content is pretty much created or what is being created and shared. And really the only thing that's going to stay the most consistent, you guys will see, is channeled messages, continuing to share daily, weekly messages on the various platforms, right? Mainly TikTok and YouTube now. But for School of the Ascending, specifically this connection with quantum teachings, June is not going to see, the rest of the year, I should say, 2024 is not going to see any more of these videos because my guides had me continue to post for the first 6 months of the year, and then they've sort of asked that I wrap it up, and it's gonna be the same with other aspects of School of the Ascending. If you guys are connected with me on Instagram, you will know this is the spiritual school where I share healing tools and tips and various aspects of the journey to help you with your spiritual journey, whether you are starting an awakening, in the process of your awakening, revisiting, having a second awakening, or ascending. And so I appreciate all of you guys kind of staying connected and asking questions and reaching out, and also just maintaining the frequency on this earth and being here now. This will be the final teaching, and it was only fitting to talk about the illusion of time. Okay, so I've definitely talked about time in other aspects before, other videos, and in those videos it was mainly about like timelines, how time kind of plays out across different dimensions, across creation. And so this is coming back again at the forefront of something to share with you all, and how time really is playing out all at once. We've got the past, the present, and the future, and all of time is playing out. Sort of, I'm seeing the imagery of an infinity symbol, okay? It just keeps going and going. And so when we think about that, because as human beings, we have this connection with time through the linear way of thinking. It is, 10 p.m. at night, I'm gonna start getting ready for bed, or it's 9 a.m. and I've got to be at work by that time. We follow a strict time frame, a linear time frame around this man-made construct of time, but also with the scientific research of time and the aspect of its rotation for all the planets. And so when anyone in the spiritual community or anyone in life comes to you and says, time is an illusion, the past, present, and future are all happening at once, you have to think about this in terms of how there are two sides of the same coin, and both sides can be right. Both sides of the coin will have its truth. And so with time, you can connect with the linear aspect of time in the third dimension, because in the third dimension, scientists have studied and came to the conclusion that every single planet does have a specific set of hours that it takes to make its full rotation, what would we consider as a full day. So while Earth is 24 hours and Mars is 23 hours, in the third dimension, it is perceived and playing out in almost a linear way, meaning that we know, again, as I repeat, that every single planet, Earth as an example, has a certain amount of hours, Earth being 24 hours, which marks its day. And that's what we know a full day, a time of a day means to us, right? And so when we look at other dimensions, going outside of the third dimension, we're going into the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension. That is when we start to see that the linear understanding of time no longer has the same place, because we see the complexities of the dimensions change, where a solid in the third dimension will now change its state in the fourth or fifth dimension. And if we want to get technical with the quantum teachings, physics specifically, yes, anything that is solid in the third dimension can change its state, which is why we're starting to see the realism of how you can still be on Earth living your human experience and perceiving reality in a higher dimensional state because of things that you've experienced. You could be perceiving time in a different state. We know it's 24 hours in a day, but the time might be speeding up for us. We might feel the day is going super fast. Or you might feel that time is ticking extremely slow, and it's like, come on, when is it going to be, time for my break? Or when is it going to be time for me to go home and get out of work, right? And so this is kind of my explanation for you all, channeling this here, of course, of time. It's very linear in the third dimensional state to which we understand in terms of the relation with a day. We also can at the same time, because like I said earlier, more than one thing can coexist. Both sides of the same coin can be right, can have its truth. So at the same time, you could be perceiving those 24 hours being faster or feeling slower for you based on where you're at in your journey and kind of the way that life is feeling for you and presenting itself for you. And the brain is a very fascinating aspect of the illusion of time, that correlation between the way that we perceive reality and time itself. Because as I mentioned earlier, as we kind of expand into upper dimensions, fourth and fifth dimension, we know, and beyond, we know that the past, present, and future is playing out at the same time. Our perception in the 3D varies based on our connection to the experience and the enjoyment of that moment. But then at the grand scheme of things, we know that the past is continually playing out, and so is the future, and it's constantly moving and shifting. The way that timelines are moving across different dimensions is that it's constantly shifting and moving around based on the decisions that we make. And so fate across all of the timelines of mankind, and there's different timelines, right? We've got the overarching matrix timeline, which is fixed points that the collective will go through, right? The matrix timeline. But at the same time, you've got your individual timeline, right? Your timeline. So imagine 8 billion plus of these / more than 8 billion, because obviously of all the people that have been alive at one point. So you've got your timeline, imagine that's yours. Then you've got family's timeline. You've got the different timelines related to what dimensional aspect you are, what wave of the collective you're in. So not only are you going to experience different matrix aspects, the matrix being that dimensional programming locked into the earth grid. It is basically the same type of matrix energy we will all experience regardless of how ascended we are. It's locked into the system. It is a firewall, a programming of the earth grid of the third dimension. And so that, which will eventually, I'm hearing, be dematerialized and shifted as more people awaken. This begins to become almost fluid and not locked in. So the firewall of the earth grid sort of shifts and changes and almost disappears. But you've got your timeline, this fixed matrix timeline, families and friends timelines, and then you've also got the lower dimensional timeline, right? And you've got 2D and less, right, lower dimensional timeline, and you've got higher dimensional timelines crossing through. And so the way that we perceive, right, the brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what isn't. And so oftentimes we can use this idea of delusion to manifest. And so when it comes to the timelines itself, it's sort of in that aspect of, our brain / our consciousness, which are one and the same / separate energies, right? Meaning they coexist and work together in a sense. In this creation, in this vessel, are able to perceive different realities based on the work that we've done on ourselves. We can perceive a fifth dimension reality, and we can perceive a 2-dimensional lower density timeline. It depends where we're at in our journey, what we're going through, what lessons we've signed up for, etc., etc. And so there is a multitude, a plethora of timelines. Just this is so interesting. I'm seeing like a universe. Oh well, okay. It's like almost like a white hole is what I'm hearing, like a black hole, but it's a white hole of just energy and different timelines, almost like the Akashic record. But I'm seeing a bunch of telephone booths for some reason. And so this is the image that's coming through. It's like we are constantly in this experience while we are grounded in the 3D. The way that time works beyond the third dimensions that we're and coexisting with us, but we don't perceive it necessarily this way, is that there's a bunch of timelines constantly weaving in and out, like a web, right? Like a web that is layered, and you have multiple webs and just different lines that are crossing through each other. And just the matrix programming firewall timeline, it's like that veil that will kind of cover and embalm the entirety of all the timelines, because it's something that we still have to experience and go through, right? The different aspects of the matrix that each and every one of us will experience different things perhaps within the matrix timeline, that firewall that I was mentioning. But essentially, yes, the time is very illusionary in the sense that there's more than one aspect or facet to time, right? Just like there's more than one facet to a diamond. And what creates a diamond? It's putting that rock under pressure, under a certain amount of pressure. And this is how timelines work. When put in a certain amount of pressure, we find that the timelines begin to shift. And some of that pressure might be alluded to fate, right? Throughout each of these timelines, each and every thing, life form's fate will still be fixed in those timelines, right? But free will can have you having many detours in between those timelines. Do you see what I'm saying? So like fate will be those fixed points, but then free will kind of be able to, depending on the decisions that each and every one of you makes, will be weaving in and out like micro timelines in between the main timeline of your life. And so time is a very complex aspect that cannot be made logical, but I hope the drawing made sense, and knowing that in the grander scheme of things, there's a lot happening and interweaving and working itself out. But in the minute kind of bringing it down to 3D, we are here, we are now. The only true time that exists, the only true time we are creating is being in the present. And so the rest will kind of work itself out organically through the way that you experience and live in the present. And science has proven this. Science has proven that in the 24 hours of a day that we have, when you are present, you see a shift in kind of that brain not knowing the difference between what is real and what isn't. You see a shift in your manifestations, in your co-creation of your reality. Do let me know if you have any questions. I'd be interested to see if there are other topics that you'd like for me to teach. And thank you so much, Collective, for tuning in. Until next time, go and grow.